Hello everyone, this is the Lost Boy, and thanks for joining me. The first thing I want to talk about this week is some major changes that just arrived via the 3.0 version patch for Splatoon 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Looking over the release notes, this does seem to be one of the biggest and most significant updates so far. If you'd like to see for yourself, I've included a link in the description. Some notable changes include the addition of the new X rank, as well as 5 weapons being added to Salmon Run. Also, some single-player content has been added involving Callie from the Squid Sisters, as well as new gear, new music, and a ton of other new additions, changes, and fixes. I really can't get over how well this game has been rolled out. Nintendo has historically lagged far behind its competition in terms of the shooter genre, but as I mentioned in a previous video, Splatoon's developers have cleverly innovated a very tightly programmed shooter while managing to completely sidestep the issue of violence. Don't get me wrong, I love me some violence sometimes, but it leaves little kids and adolescents in an awkward position. They want to feel cool and shoot stuff too. And although I'm sure many youngsters may balk at something so obviously geared toward them, at least there's an alternative to games like Doom or Gears of War. But never mind the theme for a minute. Looking over the patch notes shows that, although the latest patch may be the biggest yet, there have been regular updates since the release. Some have been very minor, for sure, but there have been very significant updates every couple of months or so, with massive lists of fixes, cool new additions, and changes for balancing. Add to this the dynamic nature of constantly rotating multiplayer levels, and of course the Splatfest events, and you have something that almost defies comparison in the current marketplace. Next up, some more developments in the loot boxes sector. On April 19th, Eurogamer reported that the Netherlands have decided that certain types of loot boxes do indeed constitute gambling. This finding came after 4 of the 10 games it examined went against laws in its Betting and Gambling Act. At issue is the claim that the content of these loot boxes was determined by chance, and also that prizes could be traded outside the game. Although the authorities did not name the offending games, a Dutch broadcaster outed them as FIFA 18, Dota 2, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and Rocket League. The Netherlands is now calling for a wider ban on such loot boxes across the EU. Less than a week later, the Belgian Gaming Commission announced it was declaring loot boxes to be gambling and therefore illegal. Between CSGO, Overwatch, FIFA 18, and Star Wars Battlefront 2, only Star Wars did not contain gambling. And that was only true because it had already removed precisely that type of loot boxes after a massive backlash. Publishers have been warned that if the loot boxes are not removed, they may face a fine of up to 800,000 euros and 5 years in prison. This may seem to have gotten very real very quickly, but the concern that children and young people are being exposed to what's basically online gambling is fair, I think. I will continue to follow this story as it unfolds. Lastly, before I go, I wanted to mention something that happened in my hometown of Toronto. This topic is more serious than most things I discuss, so if you're just interested in the gaming stuff, you might want to just click off this video right now. That being said, on April 23rd in Toronto, 8 women and 2 men were killed by a disturbed person driving a rented van. Taking a page from Philip DeFranco, I will not mention that person's name or show their image. Many people feel that to do so only encourages other similarly disturbed people to act out as well, if only so the world can notice their pain or upset. Instead, here are the names and faces of the innocent victims. This could have been me, or a family member, or a friend. It could have been any of us. Mental health is a huge issue, and so is political and ideological radicalization. Voices on both the right and the left are pointing fingers at each other over this attack, which is worse than useless. My personal view is that this person was consumed with a level of entitlement most people would find hard to believe. Such a person will never fail to externalize their problems, desires, and lack of understanding. Such a person can just never catch a break and sees this conclusion as the fault of reality itself. I have simply no patience for this type of thinking, and it's clear to me how a community of such like-minded people reinforcing each other would almost inevitably lead to such a tragic situation. Indeed, it apparently already has. I may discuss this topic further in a future video, but for now, I just want to say to the families and loved ones of the victims that my heart is with you. To everyone else, I would just like to remind you to reach out and call someone you love, Or even better, reach over and give them a hug if you can. Our time here is not forever, and we have no idea how long we have together, and that's especially true given events like this one. I apologize if this was a bummer. I know it's definitely outside of my ordinary run of tech and gaming related stuff. Sometimes things happen though, things that I feel strongly about and want to discuss, and I feel like leaving stuff like that out would almost be dishonest. Let me know your thoughts and feelings about today's topics in the comments section below, and thanks again for watching. Always remember your happy thought, and I'll see you next time.